Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're really excited to have this fireside chat today with Marshall Hayner and Max Keller. Why don't we start off by having you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Do you want to start, Max?
Yeah, sure. So, name's Max. We established that. Going by Langer Hans online mostly, and that's what I'm known as in the community. I'm a Dogecoin developer. Been a lead developer for a while now. It's been like 6 years, which is, I guess, quite a long time in the cryptocurrency community. When I'm not working on this coin, I'm doing software development as my day job. I'm doing mobile, backend, any kind of dev that's currently relevant. On the side, I'm also doing lots of development work, whatever interests me, learning new stuff, new things. Recently, I got an interest in drawing, so I'm trying to be a little bit more creative with stuff that isn't code. And I'm trying to buy a bike soon to also do a little bit more sports.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks, Max. My name is Marshall Hayner, and I'm CEO and co-founder of Metal. And I got my where I met my co-founder, where my passion really started igniting was in this community here with Max in the Dogecoin community, because I was a long-term Bitcoiner. I stumbled on Bitcoin in 2009 because of my interest in BitTorrent. I was actually on what.cd, and a discussion got sparked with Trent Reznor showed up and wanted to accept money for an album, to release an album inside of what.cd, which is now a defunct BitTorrent community. And that was the first time I had heard of it, and I got really excited. But one of the first things I noticed into 2010, 2011 was there was very little community. There was Bitcoin talk. I mean, the community was springing up, but there wasn't that sense of fun and excitement. And by flash forward about approximately 4 years, 3.5 years, by 2013, I had moved out to California in 2011. San Jose Bitcoin Conference 2013 was like the first big crypto conference, right? And I was like, wow, this is really happening. But it got so boring. It got so intense. All these VCs, all this money, money, money. And I'm like, where are the devs? Where are the builders? It's all VCs and new people trying to jump in. And so when Dogecoin appeared at the end of 2013, I got really excited because it was a community that was driven by the passion of building, but also just was fun. It was ridiculous. It was zany. It removed all I'll just put it lightly, the greed, right? It removed all the greed, and it was just, what's one Doge? One Doge equals one Doge. So mentally, that was my place, and that was where I met a lot of really cool people like Max, like Sporklin, like all the like Patrick, shout out to all the Dogecoin core devs and team, and this is where I met Josh Mullen from Doge Tipbot, and just this wacky kind of vibe, really a lot of fun. And shout out to Billy and Christine, the other co-founders, and that was where I met Glenn. And I started my background in building crypto, my first app 2013 around that time called QuickCoin. And then 2014, I started playing a lot with Dogecoin, getting involved in the community. I helped organize Hack-A-Doge and DogeCon and the NASCAR Doge with Josh Wise. So some of the most fun PR stuff and community building stuff I've ever done in my life. And then I joined Stellar, and then I joined Block.io, did more Dogecoin stuff with Atif, and that's where I met Glenn. And then consulted for a few years, advised, changed to a bunch of other cryptocurrency companies, and just all full circle into building Metal. And I take that same vibe, that same attitude towards life, towards everything. Let's have fun. Let's make jokes. Life is too short to not have fun. So I think crypto is really cool, and it's just such an amazing community. It connects people of all ages, and that's something that Dogecoin really highlighted. Is in Bitcoin, you had a lot of I'll just say, it's like age 20 to 30, mostly white male, whatever, nerdy, tech guy, whatever. But Dogecoin was like this breaking the stereotypes of all different kinds of ages and groups. And it was less about like oh my God, how rich am I going to get? Yeah, Doge to the moon, whatever. But at the same time, it was like, connecting as people and having fun. And I remember, if you remember I'm sure you remember, Max, the Dogecoin Foundation, these types of things, right? Like, that's what it's all about, right? You got to have fun. You got to get out there. So that's my condensed or rambling story.
That sounds amazing. And it sounds like, as we all know, Doge is an amazing community that has a lot of people involved. I want to continue on to that thread and ask, what do you think it takes to grow such an amazing community?
Yeah, I'll let Max start this one off.
I think what was really different with Dogecoin was that it was born out of a meme, and in the beginning it was like chaos. And I think that was good though, because there was no like authority who tried to force the community into a certain direction, as with like a lot of assets and tokens that we've seen in the recent years that were basically where a lot of marketing happened that tried to make this something, but like this coming from some central point of view, the issue of the token, trying to make it something. But in Dogecoin, it was suddenly just there. And then you had a lot of people seeing it and forming like a common understanding of what Dogecoin should be. And that happened in a good way because people started tipping, a charity happened, lots of cool projects happened. And I think to this day, this is still a thing because we as the developers, we never tried to force a certain way of thinking onto the community. We let the community grow itself. And a lot of this community growing happened from within the community. And I think that's very important, to not try to force anything. And even today, we have like lots of still very active communities. I think the places where the communities reside shifted, but they are still all very excited about being involved in Dogecoin or being involved in cryptocurrency in general. Because I think what Dogecoin also did was being like a starting point for many to get into cryptocurrency because it was very accessible. You didn't need to worry about owning like 0.0000 of something. You could own like 1,000 or 100,000 or one, and it was whatever. And you could tip it, you could use it to buy stuff, you could use it for charity. And so it was really a general purpose kind of coin for having fun or doing whatever you wanted with it. And I think that helped shape the community a lot. Yeah.
I completely agree with what Max just said, and my introduction to it was I was deeply involved in crypto, and I had a lot of people that were stacking sats in the very early days when Bitcoin was $1, $10, $20. Oh, can you believe Bitcoin's $1? Oh my God, can you believe it's $20? I thought 20 was the moon. I thought 20, no way 20. And when it hit 20 in 2011, I was actually on vacation. I was like, I have to leave now. And my ex-girlfriend at the time, I'm now happily married, and that changed. But when at the time I was on vacation, I said I have to go and leave and go sell my Bitcoin. She said, yeah, go ahead and pack up your stuff when you get home. And so I hodled, and around the time of when Dogecoin appeared, that was such an interesting concept because I had all these people showing up and asking me, what's Dogecoin? And I was like, I really don't know. This December of 2013, it just appeared. I really have no idea. So I researched it, and that led me to Jackson. And then I sent a message to Jackson and said, I have researched this and I'd love to learn more about it. And I think this is awesome. I don't really fully understand what you're trying to accomplish here, but I think this is awesome. He said, it's a joke. It's a joke. And I said, this is by far one of the greatest things I've ever seen in cryptocurrency. And I want to be involved. I want to be a part of it. And, to Max's point, they did show up. Max, remember? They showed up. You remember the Alex Green and the Moolah? They showed up, and these people, this happens with all of crypto. These people show up, and they want to co-opt it, and it's generally bad. A lot of times it's bad intentions, right? And so as a community, we were skeptical, right? And I was very outspoken. The second I kind of got a bad feeling about it, I spoke up against it, and the community really policed itself. I thought it was really awesome because at the same time, it didn't divide the community, it didn't tear it apart. We really kind of recognized, what the core principles were. And those people, eventually faded away because they didn't match with the principles of the community, which was having fun and building and so I'm really proud to say, that I was a part of it at the time. And the community what really builds community are people that are willing to volunteer and help and be a part of it. And it's not about money, it's about community, it's about fun, it's about technology. And that's what I think was so cool. It was, Bitcoin might have been scary for a parent to say, okay, I'm going to give my kids some Bitcoin, but could they buy drugs with it? Could they do bad things? But Dogecoin was like, no, it's a dog on a coin. Give it to them. Yeah, they're going to love it. So, when we put Dogecoin together, and this was, Jackson and a bunch of the community, Eric Nakagawa, who's part of the early Dogecoin Foundation from I Can Has Cheeseburger. I met all these amazing people. Like, I can't even begin to say. And big shout out to Sporklin, one of the best community moderators of all time. And I fell in love with it. And I think that, when we organized Dogecoin in San Francisco, it's really cool because we said, we want to invite dogs to this con. Bring your dogs, bring your kids, all ages, right? And we're thinking like 100 people show up. This is the automatic headquarters. Over 1,000 people show up. The SFPD are there. It was great. And we had Andreas Antonopoulos, who, everybody thought, Andreas is a maximalist. Well, he really likes Bitcoin, but he's not a maximalist. He got up on the stage and he asked everybody, raise your hand if you think Bitcoin will be the only coin in the future. And a bunch of people raised their hands. And then he said, 10 coins, 20 coins, 1,000 coins. And it's like me and a few people are like, yes, over 1,000 coins. And he said, yes, that's right. The free market will allow it to happen. So I think, free market mechanics and people that want to build and have fun. I think Dogecoin really did so well because it was very welcoming and it was open. And I think the early Bitcoin community, as time has grown, I love Bitcoin, right? But there's certainly an element of elitism to cryptocurrency. And if it feels like a cool kids club and, oh, you're not smart enough, you don't know, whatever, that really alienates a lot of people. And Dogecoin was, what is this Dogecoin? Wow, such fun, much Doge, 1,000 Doge tip. That was a really cool experience to come in and get that. So I think that that kind of mentality builds great communities and great devs like Max and Patrick and the whole team and Ross and great moderators like Sporklin and Eric and Jackson and Billy and Christine, people like myself, want to come in and want to contribute. So sorry, going too long again, but yeah.
No, totally fine. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people love to hear. And I think that's a really big hurdle in terms of mass adoption is that fear of cryptocurrency. And I think communities like Doge are doing a lot to kind of get rid of that and welcome people in.
Yeah.
Doge is, off of what Max says, based off of a meme. And so a lot of people take Doge as a joke and they have a lot of fun with it. But, people forget that there are serious devs behind it and there's serious work being put in. With that being said, what are some of the challenges about building a blockchain and what kind of risk of attacks do you guys face during these serious works?
So I think like in the beginning, we already saw that some parameters of the blockchain as they were chosen were maybe not great. Let's write it that way. Because the tech behind the blockchains as they are based on Bitcoin can be very fragile depending on how you build your blockchain in the beginning. And some of those parameters are fixed unless you go into things like hard forks, for which you would need consensus in the community, and especially with the miners. So given that we had so many coins flowing around, it was very easy, for example, to spam the blockchain with very low amount transactions of like 0.0000 whatever one Doge. But you were paying basically no fee for those transactions. So it was easy to spam the blockchain. And so we introduced what we call dust fees to get around that issue by putting a penalty on such small transactions. And then in, I'm not so good with the timeline here, but somewhere in 2014, we had issues with the way that the block rewards worked, and we had random block rewards. but the randomness was based on the previous block, so it was kind of known already how high a block reward for the next block would be. And so pools started to game that system and only put lots of hash power on blocks that would give them a lot of coins. So that was something we had to work around. And at some point, interest from miners went down a little, our hash rate went down. And as a proof of work blockchain, we depend on people mining the chain to keep it going and to keep it strong. Otherwise, there was always a threat of being attacked with lots of hash rate, because at some point, Scrypt ASIC miners came into the game. It wasn't just GPUs as it was before. So we had to think about a solution there, and Charlie Lee from Litecoin came to us and supported us with merge mining, which is something that we discussed a lot even before that. But the Litecoin community came to us and helped us with integrating it. And so we released merge mining, which helped us to get a really, really strong chain. And this really strong chain is going still, which shows that I think we made the right decision. Although, and that's a different side of the community, we had a very vocal minority telling us that this is wrong and this will kill Dogecoin, and but that's something you always get. And in the end, I think we made the right call there. Dogecoin is still alive and kicking. It's still always around the top 30 or so cryptocurrencies if you check CoinMarketCap, and the community is still there, still having fun, and Dogecoin actually has utility now as a way of paying for things, still for tipping, microtransactions, charity, all this kind of stuff is still around. So I think the challenges we had, we did quite good with those.
Yeah, I agree, you know, with what Max was saying. I was there during kind of the you know, some of these early issues and some of the Dogecoin Foundation meetings, and you know, a lot of the topics were around you know, consensus. And when it started, actually, it was funny because Jackson, you know, and Billy connected on Bitcoin Talk, and you know, it was like, just, you know, Google hey, how do we make a blockchain, right? And so some of the things weren't, like, when you're building these things, you don't get everything right all the time. That's what we learned from building blockchains, right? Is that things come up. And so the endless minting for Dogecoin was actually a mistake. That wasn't intentional, and it was like, oh, it's a joke, let's just roll with it. And we tested new economic experiments, right? Because prior to that, you know, prior to Bitcoin, there was no endless minting coin. This is pre-Ethereum days, right? So anybody that thought that, you know, there were a lot of people that were like, oh my God, no, it can't mint endlessly. That will be very bad. But we tested a new economic experiment that you could have a cryptocurrency that wasn't, or what I call crypto commodity, that wasn't hard capped, right? And that was very cool. And so that economic assumption proved to be true. And another thing I talked earlier about, you know, Dogecoin, the early days, you got to see a lot of the people that are, you know, that event was such a critical event for me, because I saw a lot of the early, like, what you call OGs of crypto, and that was Charlie Lee, and that was Andreas Antonopoulos, and that was, you know, Jackson, that was myself, that was you know, Jesse Powell from Kraken, you know, and it was really cool. They were, you know, we're all very supportive, and those people that were talking about crypto that were agnostic early on, even though some might like Bitcoin more, some might Metal more, or Ethereum, although I love Dogecoin and Metal equally, you know, because that's my roots, right? But I think that you uncover these things as you go, and you always have somebody who will say, no, how dare you merge mine? How you know, you always have somebody that will naysay. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the technical complexity and what makes the most technical sense, and you have to roll with it. And you want input from the community, but at the same time, you do have to eventually kind of pick one thing and stick with it. And that was, you know, what Dogecoin, that's what, you know, Max and Patrick and Ross and the whole team and everybody did really well, is they picked one thing. And Charlie is such a cool community guy, came in and said, you know, I'll support this, I'll back it, and added the code to Litecoin to merge mine. And I remember I was really, we were all racking our brains about it in the beginning. Like, what are we going to do? And when it came together, I love when a plan comes together and crypto G's unite. And we're all still here, all the same people. People may come and go over the years, but you can count on Max and I being here for a long time.
I wanted to ask now, you guys have been around for a long time. What new advancements or updates can we look forward to coming from the communities?
I think for Doge, from the technical standpoint, we rolled out a new update, 1.14, which has brought us back up to like a new modern code base, which I think is important because we are trying to keep Dogecoin, keep the network, the blockchain running as a solid foundation that you can build up on. And we are not trying to add like whatever fancy new tech comes around the corner all the time. So we rolled out this update and we are basically waiting for the community and miners to upgrade before we can start to put more work into our next update. Because we have a soft fork in there. So if any miners are listening who are mining Dogecoin, please upgrade to 1.14. Calling out to you all. So yeah, we're waiting for that to introduce more changes that Bitcoin got, and we are thinking about adding all the new stuff that Bitcoin got in its latest releases. But we are still looking into what makes sense to add to Dogecoin and maybe what doesn't, because Dogecoin and Bitcoin are sufficiently different that we need to look from it at a different angle than Bitcoin developers would probably do. And I think community-wise, we still have lots of fun new projects that are underway or released already. Especially looking at like games that are built on or around the Dogecoin community. We had Doge Racer, a fun racing game that's currently in like early access for phones, but you can play it on your computer already. We have Doge Miner, dogeminer2.com, if you've maybe played it already, which has a really, really great community attached to it on Discord and on Reddit, and which like really lives the spirit of Dogecoin, do only good every day. And so there's a lot of cool stuff happening in the communities, and you just have to basically look left and right and you will find something you can engage with that maybe piques your interest. There's lots of things to find in our community, and I think Metal is also building a nice community. I've been on your Discord now for, I think, a while, and I get a lot of the same vibes from it, which I think comes from your roots in the Dogecoin community, and I really feel that. So maybe you want to say something about that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Max. And you mentioned the Dogecoin motto, do only good every day. And I really learned so much in the Dogecoin community, and the vibe is what the vibe needs to be in cryptocurrency, right? Which is this open, accepting vibe, and also that mentality of keep doing better and have this openness. So we created our motto really kind of out of that spirit, where Glenn and I met, and I met all you guys, which was, our motto is always act in good faith with full transparency and accountability. And it really comes from the Dogecoin motto and spirit, right? And so it's like kind of like, and when you were talking about, how these new technical developments with Dogecoin kind of build on top of what Bitcoin has, that's the really cool, the organism that I call cryptocurrency, because it just keeps evolving and evolving. And if we have that mentality, then we can do really cool, amazing things. And so, thank you for pulling that segue together, because that I was going to touch on that. That ethos is Dogecoin. The heart of Dogecoin is alive inside of MetalPay, and hopefully a little bit, vice versa. I want to really support the Dogecoin community. So so in doing so, adding Doge into the app. So some of the really cool features coming for Metal platform, MetalPay. There's the Metal platform, which is kind of like the PayPal for crypto, right? And then there's the Metal coin, which is the decentralized nature, the blockchain. So first I want to touch on kind of Metal platform and what's coming inside the Metal platform. Very cool stuff. These are centralized apps, not dApps, but these are the first layer to get access. So Metal X, and that is a fully featured international exchange. And that's going to be US and Europe, and we're going to bring on some other countries this year is the plan, with a shared order book, which is really cool because a lot of times you only have like an order book in the US or a order book in Europe, and they don't touch each other. So you have arbitrage traders and bots that are pulling the orders between each other. So now we figured out the GDPR licensing issue so we can connect both. And that was kind of, I think, a regulatory headache hurdle for a lot of other exchanges. They just said, screw it, just separate them, let the traders do the rest. So I said, the spirit of Doge, bring the community together, bring everybody on the same plate. So Metal Pay 2.2.0, which allows you to deposit and withdraw Dogecoin, Metal, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a bunch of other coins mainnet now. So now you have a place to buy your Doge and buy your Metal, and you can pull it out and put it into the app, which I think is really critical because there's only a few options inside the US that do this. And as far as mobile payment apps, there's only there's three that I'm aware of. There's Metal Pay, there's Square Cash, and there's Abra, and these are the only options. And I'm really excited to bring Metal Pay to Europe this year because I know there's so many European Dogecoin fanatics, Metal people that I really want to bring in. It's gonna be really exciting. And that same day purchase element, that good user experience, like I just put my debit card in, I put my credit card in, and I just hit buy Doge, and I've got it, right? I don't have to wait, I don't have to add cash. So that's kind of how our system works right now, but we're gonna upgrade with this feature I call purchase on pending balance with external linked funding source, which, you just type in your debit card and you just hit buy and it's yours, right? That's so critical, right? I want easy, I want fast, I want the price of Doge is about to moon, okay, I want it now.
At what level do you think governments and banks are with development of their own blockchain-based solutions?
Yeah.
Or is it just maybe a guessing game at this point? I know not decentralized, but that's still a hard term to grasp the gravitas of decentralization for the masses.
Yeah, this is a good question. What do banks think about? What do banks and traditional finance think about blockchain? And my answer to that is they're very excited and they're integrating. So JP Morgan Chase has their own cryptocurrency initiative called Quorum. You go to I think it's goquorum.com. And then Santander, they're working with Ripple, and then you've got R3 Consortium. Basically, they're all in what I call the research and development stage, the R&D stage, where they don't necessarily know how it's going to fit in, but they're starting to experiment. And I just read a 20-page report from Chase last night about case studies of blockchain and banking and kind of how it's working. And here's the really interesting thing, and I'm going to drop a little nugget, a little dime here. I was working on maybe you guys have read something about the Cryptocurrency Act of 2020. I'm not going to tell everything, but I was working on this bill called the Cryptocurrency Act of 2020. And in working on writing this bill, some of the stuff that I realized was, why write a bill? Well, I thought, in all my interactions with banks and traditional finance is that the big issue, what's the big blocker for banks doing crypto stuff? Well, it's not PCI compliant, it's not BSA compliant, and we don't know who's on the other side. So, we use what's known as blockchain transaction monitoring, like Chainalysis and Elliptic, to make a best guess of, who's on the other side. But the problem with this type of SaaS is it doesn't cover every blockchain at once. So you want to launder some money, just go use some Dogecoin or whatever, right? No, not to say that. No, do not. I'm joking. Go use it, most likely an anonymous coin, right? That's the reality. Most likely use an anonymous coin. And I won't name any names. I was just teasing. I was just making fun. But the point is that it's hard to keep up, right? So the banks are looking at trying to figure out how to add identity in, trying to figure out how to get to BSA compliance. And then more so than that, they need to know who the primary regulators are. So when I started working on the Cryptocurrency Act 2020, I identified, the primary regulators based upon the memos that they had put out, and they actually got closer and closer together. And right as I was writing it, they came out and said, FinCEN, CFTC, and SEC made a joint statement about the types of crypto assets there should be and how they should regulate them. And that was really cool because that lined up with my bill and the bill that I was writing. So, I really shout out to Representative Gozer and Legislative Counsel Eric Binman and all the people that made this happen. It's really cool. And I think that something like this, like Cryptocurrency Act 2020, is exactly the type of legislation that we need in the United States to give the banks and give the card payment processor and card companies the regulatory certainty to know with what they're dealing with and who they're dealing with. Because otherwise, you're a small startup like Metal, and let me tell you, you got to write a million opinions of legal opinions of what's this and that, because things are not clearly defined. And so that's really damaging for a small startup. So you have to be very savvy, like myself, and you have to get legal with it. But then at the same time, for a big company, they've got all the money in the world to do this, but guess what? They're not going to, because the uncertainty is too high, the risk is too high, and they're an entrenched financial institution. So you need that certainty. So there's the answer to the question. They love it. They're so excited. And do you know Bank of America, where we've started, yes. They have more blockchain patents than any bank. Bank of America is my favorite bank, and I really like them. And Wells Fargo, who's even very down on crypto. At one point, I had my first crypto startup, QuickCoin, in 2013. Wells Fargo, we went into the office. They opened up my bank. They're, oh, we love this, but keep it quiet. And then they shut down our account, right? It happens. It happens in the world of crypto, but you got to have a high compliance bar. And with the regulatory certainty comes technical integrations. I guess you could say it that way.
Maybe to add something to this, I think it's a really, really good point. What you say is that stuff has to be clearly defined, because in developing, managing Dogecoin, I had lots of contact with several exchanges from all over the world, and I see lots of uncertainty about what legal documents they're required to have, what frameworks they operate under. And so they come to us as a decentralized project with no backing company, no real, let's say, funding, no attorneys, lawyers, and things like that. And they want like really complex legal documents from me. And I'm sitting here, I'm a developer, I write code, I don't write legal documents. And we operate in Dogecoin as this really decentralized project with no governing central company above it. We just can't provide these documents, and this made it really hard to kind of get on some exchanges or to be accepted on some platforms. They all figured it out in the end, so it wasn't that bad for us in the end. But yeah, if it would be more clear as to what they need in terms of their legal standing, that would be easier for them to integrate different assets, platforms, or whatever into their systems and build this this cryptocurrency network like overall. And aside from banks, I think a lot of people say, well, we need to get blockchain cryptocurrency into the mainstream. And I think it's already there in, as you say, in banks, but also like in my company where my day job is, which is technology-wise kind of traditional, and if I want to say it that way. But even we are hiring a blockchain team because we might have certain applications that would benefit from blockchain technology. And I think that shows that in like some hidden ways, blockchain technology already managed to like really get into the mainstream. It might just not be visible for everyone who's just looking on it from the outside.
Yeah, that's completely right. And just to kind of follow up what Max said, they're looking at, the fintechs are, and I can speak from personal experience, it's unclear. Is it a commodity? Is it a security? Is it a currency? And then what laws are governing currency, commodity, security? And different countries, different regulators, have all over the world have said conflicting things, right? And so that's very confusing for us as cryptocurrencies, for the fintechs building with the cryptocurrencies and exchanges, banks, everyone's very confused. And so it takes crazy kind of mentality. It takes that Dogecoin level, like, let's just build it. Let's just do it, whatever, right? And that's the mentality that you need to come into it. But as we grow, the companies like Max's and, other traditional finance, traditional companies, I saw an ad, somebody on Facebook today said, you got to be kidding me. It's a UPS ad. We're doing blockchain, and it looked like a package connected to a chain, like a block and a chain. And it's like, but they're interested in it, right? They want to do supply chain management. They do want to do all these things. But, when they're going to list Dogecoin, they're like, the big question that everybody's worried about, is it a security? Because the securities regulations is much more, stringent than maybe commodities or currencies. And, we don't have a securities license, right? So I think one of the things, it's very important to break these down. And this is something that I focused on with the bill was, commodity, currency, and security. And it's funny because what we've been calling cryptocurrency is probably incorrect. Cryptocurrency should be actually stable coins, right? Cryptocurrency, when we use the word currency, I think of like dollars, right? And so, or fiat instrument, what we call fiat in the world. When I say fiat outside the world of crypto, people are like, what did you just say? And
yeah,
fiat, is that like, I have a fiat? So yeah, that's having that certainty of knowing that Dogecoin, in my opinion, is a commodity, makes it a lot easier from a regulatory standpoint, right? And so I think that having the certainty is what's going to help.
So given the nature of involvement that you both have in the space, what things have you seen change for better or for worse?
Oh man, so many things. Max, you want to kick it off?
I think what's good and what's changed a lot from like the early days of cryptocurrency, people are a lot more informed about it. We are seeing, I think, at least I hope from what I'm getting, we're seeing less people getting scammed because they get more attentive to what cryptocurrency is and how it works. Like a lot of education has happened in the space, and people understand it better. And I like to think that Dogecoin played a role with this because we had like this easy entry, and we were able to use this to our advantage to teach people about cryptocurrency, teach people about how blockchains work. So that's probably something that has changed for the better recently. If I have a hard time picking something that got worse. I mean, we've seen a lot of we've seen a lot of coins or tokens or assets, however you want to call them, in recent years that have been kind of trying to ride a hype train, being just a money grab. With like things like ICOs, and like we currently have like, what is it, 2,500 live tokens or assets around there. Probably even more, yeah. But I think the turnover was like really high. We see a lot of tokens that have just lived for like a very short time, and that died down a little, which I think is a good thing. We've seen more products actually being built from the ground up based on blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, with like real utility behind them and a real business plan and a real use. And that's a lot better than it has been like, I don't know, 2-3 years back when people were just throwing around new tokens and claiming it to be the next big thing, but without having actual backing for the technology behind it. And I really like where this is going, where we are seeing actual products being built on this technology that reduce the barrier of entry, reduce friction for users, and finally get cryptocurrency and blockchain to a state where you don't really have to think about it anymore. It's just there. It makes your transactions and your financials, makes it secure, and you get all the benefits of the technology without having to worry about all the magic that happens behind the scenes. And I think getting a better user experience for everyone involved is what's going to help this technology to be more accepted and spread even further.
Yeah, I completely agree with Max. I can break it down kind of into what I say, the good and the bad. And I want to say that I feel that, I was fortunate enough to be here from the beginning, right? Which was 2009. I just stumbled upon it because I love Trent Reznor, and Trent Reznor said, no, I want to sell my music. And then somebody said Bitcoin. And whenever I hear a word I don't know, I Google it, right? And then I fell down the rabbit hole like so many do. And so, 2013, 2014, it was was like the era of Dogecoin, the birth of Dogecoin. And really, it kind of, crypto has gone in waves. So it really, that was a time, I think, around 2013 when some of the first really, entrepreneurs and crypto OGs, I think, emerged from the shadows and said, I'm going to build a business. I'm going to build something in crypto. I'm going to build startups. The beginning of Coinbase, the beginning of, Kraken, the beginning of, one of my heroes, legends, Eric Voorhees, and the BitInstant days was kind of precursor. And so that was really cool because that was kind of the very beginning. And we saw the first ICO, which was Mastercoin, which is now not really a thing anymore, but that was mind-blowing. They raised $1 million, and how did they do it? That's unbelievable. This is pre-Jobs Act, public fundraising type activities were allowed by the SEC. So that was a really cool time. And then, the good and the bad, right? So 2013 to, I would say, about 2016 was like this very early formative time of testing new economic theories, new blockchains, and there was some scamming and there was some tough stuff. So, starting with the bad, there were a lot of people that showed up that tried to do bad things, right? And Max and I were part of the, we're there when, well, we have always been there in Dogecoin, but we saw as a company called Moolah appeared, and we were all skeptical, right? We were all skeptical. And I remember being, thinking, I'm just skeptical by nature and thinking, I'm not sure about these people. I'm not sure about, and I called it out, like right in a meeting where we, right to this guy's face. I think that this is a lie. I think the ATM is fake. I think it was, and he threatened me. He said, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to sue. Okay, well, good. Yeah, whatever, right? And we kind of knew because the Dogecoin community vibe was very friendly. So when somebody comes in and starts, threatening to sue everyone, that's not very Dogecoin. That's not very, and so you knew something that was wrong. And so we all kind of agreed that this was not good. And we, over time, the community self-policed and kicked it out. And that is, and then you go into 2017 and now kind of getting to the good. Well, it's good and bad. The good is like this explosion of interest, all these people coming in. But once again, your Alex Greens, pop out of the woodwork. And I guess I can say this name because he's in jail. So I can say it, he's not gonna, what is he gonna do, right? And it's fact that this guy did bad things. So, and we see a lot of that, right? I don't want to name more names, but I guess we could name BitConnect or something like that. There were these things that popped up in 2017. So you have good projects like Metal coming together, and Ethereum and Metal and Augur and some really cool projects coming together. But then you also have BitConnects and future Alex Greens popping up. So we really had to do a lot of self-policing. But in this pandemonium, it was hard for people that were just coming in to know what's what. You have a million things coming at you, and you want to make money. So if BitConnect is promising you undeniable, ridiculous returns, then you have to, you have to be, what's too good to be true, and you have to ask yourself. So the really good things that came out of this were to Max's point, is the community matured and learned how to differentiate between the junk and the hype people. The hype people never shipped anything. Their card, their debit cards, their exchanges they said they were launching, it never materialized. It was all hype, and they hoped to, really raise the price of their coin, but it was for personal, selfish gain reasons, right? And the people that you met in 2013, 2014, the Maxes, the Marshalls, the Andreases, guess what? They're still here. They're still building. They're super excited. They're just as excited as they were, 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? And that's what you got to look for. And I think that over time, community has gotten smarter because they want to say, what's real, what's tangible. I want to see the latest Dogecoin mainnet upgrade. I want to see Metal Pay doing bank things, card things. And so now as things are evolving, people are wising up, and they say, let's see what's real, let's see what's the real software. I think at the end of the day, I'm a product guy, I'm an app guy, and I'm all about shipping. So, if you're not shipping anything, then, be skeptical, be highly skeptical. And I think that we're still on the tail end of this because we have a lot of big ICOs, a lot of big projects that, frankly failed to ship very little. And so in my opinion, not to be named, but I think that, what I learned in crypto over the years is that what CoinMarketCap looks like in 2013 will not look like that in 2014, will not look like that in 2015, will not look like that in 2016, all the way to 2020. And then next year, what you're seeing is the top 100 will completely readjust. So in the traditional world of if you were on NASDAQ and you're looking at all the different, companies and stocks, maybe the malls across America, maybe Radio Shack will go out of business, maybe they'll die, right? but they're mostly going to stay the same. But in the world of crypto, I like to put it this way: one Doge equals one Doge, and one day equals like 10 days in crypto. So if you've been here for 1 year, it's almost like you've been here for 10 years in technology. And if you can't ship something in 10 years in 1 year, you get a serious problem there, right? So I think, look at the people like Max and I that are shipping real code, and look at the people that stick around year after year and are not in this for the money. That's how I say, identify.
Good advice. Continuing off of you and Max's experience, what would you, Marshall, improve on Doge, and what would Max improve on Metal? And most importantly, why?
Nothing. I don't know, because it's so perfect in so many ways. But I'm not trying to just I'm not just trying to kiss ass, but I do feel that Dogecoin made a perfect community. Showed the ability to be flexible and in the face of adversity, when other coins communities just internally rip themselves apart and divide into two camps and hard fork. I watched as the dev team pulled off the merge mining, which was such an awesome, complex, and difficult thing, because you have Dogecoin is very friendly. So that's what helped and made it so possible. Whereas other coins might rip each other apart from the inside. Everybody's pointing fingers at each other, right? So that's one of the things that allows these things to happen. But I guess if I were to add anything, I don't know, smart contracting or something cool. I'm just trying to pull something out of a hat. Smart contracting would be very cool. Yeah, I would say like smart contracts and Dogecoin. And I know that wasn't there somebody that was working on this at some point, Max? There was like somebody was trying to build some smart. I remember vaguely something about it. I don't know if that ever happened, but I guess if I were to add anything, I might start to add some smart contracting stuff, because I really love what Ethereum brings, to the table, and EOS and kind of what we're working on with XID. I love these new concepts. So the contracting language is really kind of evolving, and that's something that I would love to see other coins start to build and evolve, because that's really kind of the beginning of the Web 3.0. Really, it started with Bitcoin and Dogecoin, and the communities and the processes, and testing the assumptions of capped, not capped. These were things we had no idea, and we still don't even know what happens when the Bitcoin block reward becomes so infinitesimal. Is it financially rewarding for miners? Do miners dissipate and the network loses its security and hashing power? So we still have questions to answer, but I think that Dogecoin has done such an amazing job, and I really wouldn't change much at all.
Yeah, to pick up what you said there, I think if we finally get everyone to upgrade their Dogecoin mining nodes, calling out the miners again here, we can build a basis to build something like that, and it's kind of a more established new technology that we'd be okay with looking into adding to our blockchain. If I was to change anything about Metal, I'd put a Doge on it. But that's probably about it. I mean, there's a certain someone in
mascot. Sorry.
Yeah. I think there's a certain someone in our Dogecoin and Metal community that we both know who would like to have it be more pink. But that's not for me to decide either. No, but really, when I joined the Metal community on Discord, which is the only community I'm currently active in Metal, it was initially getting that same feeling that I got when I initially joined the Dogecoin community. It was all very welcoming. I asked some questions. I got answers from you, Marshall. I got answers from the community. And then I came back and said, well, I'm actually an MTL holder now. And everyone was like, yay. And so, yeah, I think the way you're building the product and the community right now is the way to move forward with it. And I'm really looking forward to what's coming there. So, nothing that I would change right now. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and it's really cool to have this crossover of communities. I just wanted to add, the Dogecoin community lives and has a little spot inside the Metal community, and the Metal community has a little spot inside the Doge community. And I really kind of if it's like kind of addendum to this question, for other communities, what would I change? I would kind of follow this kind of vibe that we have, that the Metal and Dogecoin have, which is highly welcoming, and let's stop the infighting. So stop the infighting. The Bitcoin's better than Ethereum's better than EOS. Look, guys, we are all on the same page here. And if anybody wants to aggress or push other people around, if anyone wants to Craig write it up, I think that we should not give into that. We should not give into the bullying and that type of stuff and the infighting. And the bullying is really what slows us down and prevents us from growing. So I would add an addendum to this, which is what can other coins do better or change? It would be to take this vibe that we have. Don't take things so seriously. Have an ambassador from every coin in your community and open things up, because how is crypto going to evolve? It needs to borrow from other computer scientists and community leaders like yourself and Sporkland and the whole team to be able to really open things up. It's through the open collaboration that we can grow the technology and grow the communities. Without it, we actually isolate each other and cause confusion for new people coming in from the outside, because I have to pick a side. I didn't know I have to pick a side.
Okay, thank you guys so much. We're running out of time, so I want to end it here on that great note. I want to thank you, Marshall and Max, for taking the time to speak with us today. Are there any last words that either of you guys have? Parting words to the community?
Wow.
Wow, yeah, definitely wow.
Perfect.
Wow.
Okay.
Such awesome. Thanks everyone for joining, and thanks Max and the Dogecoin community and the Metal community for watching, and stay tuned for more updates from us. A lot of big stuff coming from both teams. So thanks again, Max.
Thank you for having me.
Cheers. All right, see you guys. Bye.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye.